Hi, in this video I'll be providing you with a quick overview of the Adobe Premiere Pro software, how to create a new project, and how to work with the different windows and panels. So to get started, we have three different options here. We can create a new project, we can click Open Project if we want to browse folders on our computer to look for projects we've been working on, or we can just choose a recent project to continue working on. I'm going to click New Project. And when you click New Project, there are a few things you'll need to do. Firstly, give your project a name. I'll just call this My Project. And secondly, check where you're saving your project. So here where it says location, you can choose to browse for a different folder on your computer if you'd like to save your work somewhere else. At the moment, I'm just going to leave it how it is. And then here under General Settings, there are a few different options that we can work with as well. So renderer, I've currently got mine set to use GPU acceleration. If you have a faster computer, click GPU acceleration. Otherwise, just leave it as is. For digital video work, under video, we'll just leave it as timecode. But there are other options if you're working with film. Audio, we'll just leave as audio samples. And capture, we'll just leave as is. We don't really need to worry about that unless you're using, unless you have camera footage from a camera that's plugged in. So if you have a camera plugged in and you're trying to capture footage from it, then there are different settings you can work with. I don't have a camera connected at the moment that I'm trying to capture footage from, so I'll leave that as is. Lastly, one of the other things I'll show you today is scratch disks. So basically previews, autosaves, effects, all of those things can be stored in different locations called scratch disks. So you can choose to store all those things in other places. I like to keep everything sort of together in one place, so it's easy to access and just sort of organized all in one place. So I'm just going to leave these as they are. Otherwise, I could choose to save captured audio somewhere else and video previews in a different place and so on. But otherwise, if you're happy with the settings, then just click OK. And once your project is set up, you will see basically about 4 different main layouts, depending on what type of workspace you're using. If you go to Window and Workspaces, there are different workspaces that you can choose from. Currently, I've got mine on editing, but you can play around with different workspaces. So with different panels and different positions, and depending on what you want to focus your work on. And you can also save your own custom layouts as well. So if you ever find toolbars missing, or you don't like the layout and you'd like to reset it, you can go here. If you've got a layout that you really like using and you want to continue using that on your projects, you can save them. Otherwise, if you're just looking for a panel or a window that's missing, you can choose them from the window menu as well. Okay, but basically at the moment I have about 4 different windows or panels here. So up here I have the source monitor, I have the program monitor on the right side. Down the bottom I have the project panel, and on the bottom right I have the timeline, as well as a number of different toolbars and menus in there as well. So I'll start from the bottom left. Down here we have the project panel, and this is basically where you import all your files. So videos, sounds, images, and also where you can create new files such as effects. So you might see project and effects here. If you can't see effects, you can just click here to find effects as well, and there are different ones to choose from. So that's basically where you import and create files. So as an example, I'm going to open a folder here that I have. I've got a video folder, and I can just simply drag and drop this video from here down to here. So you can drag individual or multiple items into your project panel, or you can actually select just whole folders and copy those in to keep them organized into folders. Oops. So I'm going to go video, and I'm going to drag this video file down here where it says import media to start. All right, so that's the project panel. In the middle here we have the timeline, and the timeline gives us a few different tools to sort of cut footage or move around the timeline, things like that. We won't really look at these now, but as we work through different effects and projects in the future, I'll go through some of these tools then. Okay. Next to that, over here we have the timeline, and that's where our sequences go. So our sequences of footage. So all of our videos, sound, and effects that we've added can be viewed on the timeline. So what I'll do to create a sequence is I'm going to drag my video from the project panel over to the timeline. All right, now before I do that, I can preview what it looks like up in the source monitor up here. Okay, so I can double click that video and just preview it up here in the source panel. All right, now if I drag that over to the timeline, what that will do is create a sequence, and I can make changes to the footage, I can edit it, I can add different effects, and I can preview the changes that I've made over here in the program monitor. So basically on the left side, the source monitor, that's really just used to preview imported footage before adding it to the timeline and making edits. And the program monitor is where you preview your video and all the edits or the graphics, effects that you've added, all of the things that show up on the timeline. Now, we can control playback as well. So we've got these two toolbars here to play video or see images in the source monitor here. So before we've added them to the timeline and made edits. And then we can also view, do the same thing over here on the right hand side in the program monitor to view edits and changes that we've made. So you can either use the timeline to control playback, or you can press spacebar to sort of play and pause. All right. Now on the toolbar, we can see footage here on the timeline. We can see our footage, but we have different channels to work with. So when I drag this video onto the timeline, my video has actually gone onto this V1. Basically a track. So we have different video and audio tracks to work with. So I've got V1 here, and my audio is on A1. So basically, the top half here, those are all of your video tracks, and the bottom half are all of the audio tracks. So we have V1, V2, V3, A1, A2, A3. We can have more than 3. There's just 3 showing up at the moment. And that's really useful for sort of layering things. So if we want to have background music, we might add that onto A2. So we might use A1 for the sound coming from video. We might want to add some background music, and so we might sort of drag some background music onto the A2 track. And then maybe on top of that, we might also want some different sound effects. So we might sort of drag that onto A3 and just layer everything on top of each other. Same with our video tracks. So we might drag our footage onto V1. We might add effects that then go onto V2. So things like maybe titles or different color effects, things like that. We might add green screen, animations on top, text. So they might show up on these other video tracks. Okay, and then on the very far right here, we have the audio monitor, so we can see our sound levels there as well. But we won't really look at that right now. Okay, over here on the project window, we can also find effects. So usually it just shows up right next to project. For some reason it's hidden in this submenu at the moment. Might just need to resize this a little bit. But I can also use different layouts as well. So I can use the effects layout or another layout, or just move things around. So I might just move this over here. So got our project panel here with our footage. We've got effects here, and just to show how these different channels work and how to control effects, I'm just going to add a little transition here. So I'll go down to video transitions. I'll scroll down to wipe. I'm going to choose a barn doors transition. So I'm going to drag that on to the start of my video here and let go. And what that will do, if I preview it, is it's just going to add that barn door transition that we see there. Okay. Now, once you've added an effect, you can click on the effect on the timeline and you can go to Effect Controls. And remember, if anything's not showing up, just click Window and choose it from the menu there. But effect controls allow me to change settings and really go much further into those effects and change a number of different settings depending on what effect we're working with. So for this effect, things I can change are the duration. So currently it's about a quarter of a second, so I might want to make that maybe a whole second. So I can change the duration. Now if I preview that, lasts for a little bit longer. Okay, so that's how we can access our effect controls. That's basically it. With all of these different windows and panels, they're all resizable. They're all movable as well, so we can drag some of the tabs around. We can drag entire panels around and change where they go. So I could move maybe this toolbar, I could move over to this side instead and resize that. I can choose whether I want it sort of at the top, middle, side, bottom. Might just move it back over here and resize that. So all of these things can be moved around, can be completely customized. And when you're happy with what you've got, you can go to Window, Workspaces, and you can save what you've changed. You can save your layout as a new workspace and use that on all of your projects. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in another tutorial.